What if I told you punk rock wasn't born in London in 1977? What if the safety pins, the snarling attitude, and the three-chord anthems actually started years earlier in the garages of Washington State and the grimy back rooms of New York City? Stick around, because this is 10 groundbreaking songs that gave birth to punk rock. Number 1. Ramones, Blitzkrieg Bop. This is it. The sound of rock and roll stripped down, rebuilt for speed. Blitzkrieg Bop was Ramones' first single, and it was the birth of punk rock as a distinct, repeatable formula. It was a revolution in under 3 minutes. The Ramones' philosophy was simple. They felt that mainstream rock had become slow, bloated, and boring. Their solution was to take the raw energy of early rock and roll and play it faster and louder than anyone else. The song's iconic "Hey Ho, Let's Go" chant was a deliberate attempt by bassist Dee Dee Ramone to write a hook as catchy as the one in the Bay City Rollers hit "Saturday Night." The irony was that they paired this pop chant with a title referencing German military tactics. This track is a masterclass in minimalist perfection. Johnny Ramone's frantic down-strummed guitar, Dee Dee's driving bass, and Tommy's pounding, no-frills drumming created a relentless wall of sound. There are no guitar solos, no complex bridges, just pure, distilled, high-octane energy. It was a sound so simple and powerful that it made anyone who heard it feel like they could start their own band. Blitzkrieg Bop provided the simple, effective blueprint for thousands of punk bands, proving that you didn't need technical skill to make powerful music. All you needed were 3 chords and something to say. Number 2. Sex Pistols. Anarchy in the UK. This was the track that took punk rock out of the clubs and threw it onto the front pages of the tabloids. It was a masterpiece of rock and roll provocation that terrified the establishment and inspired a generation. Guitarist Steve Jones crafted the iconic, snarling riff, a sound he achieved by turning his Fender Twin amp all the way up. But it was Johnny Rotten's performance that truly defined the track. This track was a direct assault on the British monarchy and social order, delivered with such nihilistic glee that it felt genuinely dangerous. The band was famously dropped by their label, EMI, just 2 months after its release, following a curse-laden TV interview that scandalized the nation. Anarchy in the UK became the most infamous song in the country. Banned by the BBC, it still climbed the charts, fueled by pure notoriety. It transformed the Sex Pistols from a band into a national phenomenon and cemented punk as Britain's biggest youth culture rebellion. Number 3. The Stooges. Search and Destroy. This isn't just a song, it was the ultimate proto-punk anthem with arrogance and raw, untamed power. It's the sound of Iggy Pop and the Stooges at the absolute peak of their beautiful, destructive chaos. The song was born from the sessions of their album Raw Power, with David Bowie at the production helm. The legend goes that the mix, handled by Iggy himself, was famously unbalanced. He pushed every single fader on the mixing desk to the maximum, creating a muddy, overamped wall of sound where everything was in the red. This track is pure confrontational energy. James Williamson's guitar riff is a jagged, vicious weapon, while the rhythm section pounds with relentless primal force. Over it all, Iggy delivers his iconic lines. "I'm a street-walking cheetah with a heart full of napalm, with a mix of desperate swagger and genuine menace. It's the sound of a world-class decadent on the verge of collapse." Search and Destroy became the mission statement for punk rock. It's the sound of the fuse being lit. Number 4. Patti Smith. Gloria. Punk wasn't just noise and fury. It was poetry. And no one embodied that more than Patti Smith. Her radical reinvention of the garage rock classic Gloria was a 7-minute artistic statement that became the intellectual and spiritual anthem for the entire New York punk scene. Smith had been performing the song live for years, improvising her own beat poetry over the classic 3-chord structure. When it came time to record her debut album, Horses, she laid down the definitive version. The track famously opens not with a scream, but with a quiet, defiant declaration of independence. Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not mine. It was a shocking, electrifying moment that set the tone for everything to come. Smith transformed a simple song about lust into a sprawling epic of artistic, religious, and sexual liberation. The music builds slowly, from a quiet, tense opening to a full-blown, cathartic rock and roll explosion, all held together by Smith's passionate, shaman-like performance. Gloria proved that punk could be intelligent, complex, and deeply subversive. It kicked the door open, influencing everyone from Michael Stipe of REM to PJ Harvey. Number 5. The Clash. White Riot. If the Sex Pistols offered no future, the Clash offered the opposite. White Riot was the song that gave punk its political conscience. It moved the genre beyond simple nihilism and into the realm of social protest, arguing that rebellion needed a cause. Joe Strummer and bassist Paul Simonon were inspired to write the song after witnessing the Notting Hill Carnival riot of 1976. They were impressed by the passion and unity of the black youth fighting back against police harassment, and they felt that white working-class kids lacked the same sense of purpose. The song became a controversial and often misunderstood plea for the white youth to find their own cause and fight for it. The track is a blistering 2-minute blast of raw, urgent energy. It's faster and more frantic than almost any other song from the era, capturing the panic and adrenaline of a riot in progress. Mick Jones's guitar sounds like an alarm bell, while Strummer's vocals are a passionate, desperate call for action. White Riot established The Clash as an important punk rock band. Number 6. New York Dolls. Personality Crisis. This is the sound of glam rock getting dragged out of the arena, thrown in an alley, and given a switchblade. The New York Dolls were the crucial link between the glitter of glam and the grit of punk. Personality Crisis was a chaotic, high-energy anthem of frustration and fabulousness. The Dolls were a glorious mess of lipstick, platform heels, and roaring rock and roll. While bands like Slade and T-Rex were polished, the Dolls were deliberately sloppy, playing with a raw, loose energy that felt like it could fall apart at any second. Personality Crisis captures that perfectly, a frantic tale about dealing with the pressures of being young and confused in a big city. Johnny Thunder's guitar playing is a masterclass in swaggering, blues-drenched rock, while David Johansen's vocals are a mix of Mick Jagger's strut and a downtown New York sneer. The pounding piano and harmonica add to the glorious bar band chaos. The New York Dolls inspired the entire first wave of punk. Their attitude, their look, and their high-octane sound were a direct influence on Malcolm McLaren, who briefly managed them before going on to form the Sex Pistols. They proved that you could be tough, glamorous, and sloppy all at the same time. Number 7. Television, Marquee Moon. Who says punk has to be simple? While the Ramones were mastering the 3-chord assault, their contemporaries in television were creating something else entirely. A 10-minute epic of poetic lyrics and breathtaking musicianship that redefined the artistic boundaries of punk rock. Marquee Moon was the band's magnum opus. The track had been a staple of their live set for years, constantly evolving as the band grew tighter. At its heart is the legendary guitar interplay between Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd. This track rejects the standard verse-chorus structure in favor of a long building narrative that culminates in one of the most celebrated guitar solos in rock history. Verlaine's solo is a masterpiece of tension and release, telling a story with every note. Marquee created the blueprint for what would become post-punk and indie rock. It showed that the punk ethos of doing it yourself didn't have to mean keeping it simple. It was a landmark achievement that inspired countless musicians to explore a more artistic and sophisticated side of punk. Number 8. The Damned. New Rose. While the Sex Pistols were grabbing the headlines, on October 22, 1976, The Damned released New Rose, the very first punk rock single to ever come out of the United Kingdom. It beat Anarchy in the UK to the punch by over a month. Produced by Nick Lowe, the song famously opens with guitarist Brian James shouting, "Is she really going out with him?" before launching into a blistering riff. The session was fueled by pure adrenaline, with drummer Rat Scabies playing with such manic intensity that he almost destroyed the studio's drum kit. New Rose is a 2.5-minute blast of pure, unadulterated speed. Dave Vanian's gothic-tinged baritone vocals provided a unique counterpoint to the band's frantic, high-speed assault. It was faster and more chaotic than anything the Ramones had done, setting a new benchmark for punk rock velocity. As the first UK punk single, New Rose kicked the door open for the entire British punk scene. Number 9. Richard Hell and the Voidoids. Blank Generation. This is the philosophical anthem of punk rock, written by the man who arguably invented the entire punk look. Richard Hell was a pivotal figure in the New York scene, and his signature style, spiked hair, torn clothes, and safety pins, was famously taken by Malcolm McLaren and used to style the Sex Pistols. But Hell's contribution was far more than just fashion. His song, Blank Generation, was a defiant anthem for the alienated youth of the 70s. As Hell himself explained, it was about rejecting the labels of the older generation and claiming the right to create your own identity. The song itself is a masterpiece of arty, jagged punk. The angular, dueling guitars of Robert Quine and Ivan Julian created a sound that was nervous, unpredictable, and brilliantly abrasive. Hell's yelping, cynical vocal delivery perfectly captured the song's mix of intelligence and defiant boredom. Blank Generation defined the movement's core philosophy of DIY self-creation and anti-establishment rebellion. Number 10. The Sonics. Have Love, Will Travel. This is the sound of rock and roll being pushed past its breaking point. Years before punk had a name, the Sonics, a wild garage band from Tacoma, Washington, were playing with a fury that was completely unheard of. Their 1965 cover of Have Love, Will Travel is a 2.5-minute blast of primal rage. The Sonics were obsessed with creating the rawest, most powerful sound imaginable. Their secret weapon was recording in the red. They used primitive 2-track recorders and deliberately pushed the volume levels so far that the needles were permanently bent, creating a natural, fuzzy distortion. Frontman Jerry Rosley's vocals were screamed with such force that he would shred his vocal cords, a testament to their no-limits approach. The Sonics were the original punks. Their raw, lo-fi production and ferocious energy laid down the blueprint for garage punk and became a sacred text for generations of musicians, from the Stooges to Nirvana, who wanted to capture that same lightning-in-a-bottle fury. And there you have it, 10 songs that lit the fuse of a revolution. From raw garage noise to poetic rebellion, these tracks tore up the rulebook and wrote their own. They were the defiant, chaotic, and brilliant anthems that gave birth to punk rock. Which of these sonic bombs do you think made the biggest crater? And did we miss any essential proto-punk classics? Let us know your take down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip into the rock and roll underground, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive. And if you're ready for more, check out our video on 10 groundbreaking songs that gave birth to alternative rock. Until next time, stay loud, stay legendary, and keep rocking.